Hi, my name's Cameron and today we are running you sit flush with the top of the unit. So we have determined the position of the point pod. We had a chat to the client. We've got it sitting right in the back of a cabinet, a corner cabinet over here. We recommend that this is a tradesman's job only. This is not a DIY project drilling through a stone benchtop. So just take that in mind when you're installing your point pod. We have got a 100mm hole saw, so the point pod, all the dimensions of the point pod are set up to work with a 100mm hole saw, and that is fitted to a cut down drill press. We're going to just be hand feeding water into that as we drill through the stone, and we're just going to mop that up as we go with a towel. And it's actually a pretty neat process. Over in the cabinet underneath, we've double checked our measurements there. Obviously that's pretty important to make sure you get the hole in the right spot, but we've also put a timber prop underneath, just underneath the stone there, so once we do drill through, the offcut from the stone doesn't drop into the bottom of the cabinet and get damaged. So we're going to set up for that now and start drilling the stone. So the process to mark the hole, we just come through, double check our measurements there, which are right. So we take our flange, turn it upside down, put it in position, and then we're just going to mark the inside of that. So we are all set up here to start drilling the hole. We've got the drill in place, we've clamped the drill down so that we get no movement. And we're going to get cracking drilling the hole. We've got some PPE to put on. Here we go. Okay, so we have finished drilling our hole. We've got our offcut. Obviously we want to keep that. That's the integral part of the unit. You'll find when you're using a hole saw and drilling the hole, you've got this lip at the bottom that'll just need grinding off before you install it into the point pod. If the hole is drilled with a water jet, obviously that's going to be super neat and your hole's going to be super neat. We're going to clean up now and get ready to glue our flanges in place, ready for the installation. So now we are up to gluing our flanges in. So we've got our hole drilled, it's all ready to go. We take our outer flange. We want to sit that neatly down into position and set it up so it is flush with the top of the stone, like so. Now if your hole is a touch loose, I would just use some masking tape and just mask up the flange so it's sitting flush with the top whilst you go underneath and you glue underneath the bench top. So we're going to do that now. We're going to go under the bench top and we're going to glue this flange in, and then after that we're going to meg epoxy the flange up underneath the stone. So we're just going to mix some mega epoxy up now. We've got some here ready to go. So it's just a 50-50 mix with your mega epoxy. So, and then the mega epoxy will set and actually be harder than the stone itself. That's how good this stuff is. It's amazing. So we're just mixing this up now, and we've got a really limited time on this, so you've only got a few minutes. So we're going to make sure it's mixed really well, and then butter it onto our flange, making sure our flange is nice and clean. So we want to make sure we don't get any mega epoxy on the inside of the flange there. We just want to make sure it's all buttered on around the outside and it's not going to go internally. All right, so we're just going to go and pop that under the stone and glue it in place. So we have just glued that up to the underside of the bench top. We have used the outer sleeve that we glued in earlier, is our positioning sleeve, and this flange just glues straight up underneath it. So the glue in the undermounting flange has gone off and we are ready to install our point pod. When installing the point pod, we obviously have to orientate the sockets to whichever way the client would like them. The screws on the unit are the back of the unit, so we, in this case, we're orientating the sockets to come out into the bench top. So we're going to put the screws at the back. Now if you have a look in the top of the cup, there's two lugs here, and so they're directional. They'll be pointing towards where the sockets are going. So we're going to drop this down from the top. Now I have tightened the Jubilee clip up so it's nice and firm, so it'll hold the unit as I drop it down. I can let go of it and it won't move, but I can still push it down. Now I'm making sure those lugs are facing the right way. Just turn that a bit, that's perfect. I'm going to drop that down and I'm going to leave that and set that up to the right height. It's actually just moving a little bit on me now. So I'll let it go down slowly. We don't want to put any weight on this cup when we're installing it. It's quite fragile, as mentioned earlier. So I'm just going to go around and get that back up into position, and then we're going to tighten that Jubilee clip and get the point pod sitting nice and flush in the bench top. So we've got that sitting up perfectly flush with the top of the bench top now, and we're just going to do that Jubilee clip up as tight as we can. Make that nice and tight. Okay, so we're just going to get our disc ready to be placed into the top of the unit. I'm going to take the trusty old combination square, set that up at the right height, and then I'm going to use that to set our height adjuster screws in the top of the cup. So what I like to do here is set these up so they're just shy of the right depth, because once we get that stone in, we're not going to be able to pull it back out again. So it generally works out perfectly if it's just a 1/4 mil shy of our true height, and then we'll fill that up with some silicone or some glue, and we'll glue the disc into the top of the unit. So we're just going to dab some silicone in here. I like to cover those screws so that they don't rattle about and move through use. And then I'll generally put a big blob in the middle as well. And we're ready to put the disc in. We're going to put the disc in, lining it up with whatever's happening in the stone. In this case, we've got a Carrara marble, and we don't actually have a true vein to follow through. We'll sit that in there, sitting perfectly, and that's ready to plug in and test. So we've got the unit installed and plugged in, ready to test. When we push it the first time, it's going to drive down, so don't be concerned that it doesn't pop up. So we activate that the first time, and then activate that the second time, and it should drive up, offering you the power points and the USBs. One more touch to the top, and the point pod will return back underneath the bench top. So that concludes the installation of the point pod, where power never looked so good.